Hey everybody, this is going to be a little bit of a different style review, considering I normally have been doing movies and books, but today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a review for the first 3 episodes of the new anime RWBY Ice Queendom. Uh, so I'm a big fan of RWBY. You can see a poster over here about Nora. I've been a big fan of them since junior year of high school. So it's kind of been something that I wanted to do for a while, the Star Channel, and also talk about RWBY, but I figured I should probably stick more to movies because I seem to have more things to talk about. But if this video does well, maybe I'll do more regarding RWBY. I do plan on covering the rest of Ice Queendom, which is just 12 episodes, and then also doing a review of Volume 9 when it comes out. If people are interested, I'll go through and do an individual review for each volume of the show. So where to start off? Alright, so let's go with the basics. This is, like, 1 through 3, this is essentially just Volume 1, again, minus a couple of arcs. Haha. Specifically, Jean. He has one brief little thing, but it's mostly to introduce a plot element. And I'm going to be getting into spoilers throughout this entire thing. So if you have not watched RWBY Ice Queendom episodes 1 through 3, I recommend clicking off this video because I'm going to be getting into the nitty-gritty about this. There are some changes that they did here. I feel like they mostly followed the Japanese serialization in Shonen Jump. Either that or they followed more along the lines of when they brought Volume 1 over to Japan. So a lot of bits are not present in this retread of Volume 1, which that's what episodes 1 through 3 are, minus a few bits. So we get the initial arc with them becoming a team. They have the bit where Weiss is going off again, with RWBY being the team leader. And she's like, oh, I don't want RWBY to be the team leader. It's like, well, sucks to suck. And then we also have the argument between Weiss and Blake that reveals that Blake is a Faunus. All of Volume 1 minus the Jean arc, Jaundice and Forever Fall arcs, which no total loss in my opinion. So how is it? How are these first 3 episodes? Well, I'm gonna say that they're enjoyable. I don't think they're perfect by any means, but neither is the original show, so we're gonna be able to talk a little bit about that. But specifically for this, it's very fast-paced, so I will give it that. It's very enjoyable in that right. However, I do feel that there are moments where the animation felt a little stilted, and maybe that's just because I'm used to the 3D, and I feel like some bits of the 3D show are a bit more fluid. But there are certain scenes in this where you can tell that the budget was not going to these as much as other scenes, but when the budget kicks in, it kicks in. But yeah, there are certain bits here and there that I was just kind of like, well, I guess we're going to be going this route, huh? Not that I would say it's bad animation. I'm not an animator by any means, but I will call a spade and say that I feel like a little bit of the animation was a tad stilted. There were a couple moments where characters would just straight up disappear. Granted, they were just background characters to begin with. It didn't matter if they were on screen or not, but it was just like Weiss and Blake left. It's on the airship scene that they have in here. Weiss and Blake leave, and we see behind RWBY, first of all, Weiss is gone completely, not even there. We don't even see her walking away. She's just gone. And any of the other occupants of the airship are gone as well, which I thought was a little strange. I'm not gonna harp on it. Again, I'm not an animator, so I don't know what goes here and there. But I'm willing to bet that that was one of the scenes where they're like, okay, so we have Ruby standing here. We don't have like everything for the scene. We want to have more budget going into the fights, which I'll get into later. There was another scene later. I'm trying to remember exactly where it is. I feel like it's... No. There's one scene that I, in my mind, was calling the Scooby-Doo running. This is not a bad thing, keep in mind. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because we see Team RWBY and Team Juniper running across to get to the bridge to leave the area, and we see them running into this area. They're standing still, just bobbing slightly, and the things are coming past them, which that's what I mean by Scooby-Doo run. So I found it a little bit like funny in that regard, but I wouldn't quite say it's I wouldn't say it's like an intentional homage to Scooby-Doo. I'm just bringing out that comparison because it felt like the same kind of run cycle, to give the sense that they're progressing quickly, but also we don't really want to animate 8 people running in 2D across this entire place. So we're just going to have things moving past them, which is completely fine. It's an entirely valid sense of animating a run cycle. So I want to talk about specific story beats that are newer to this, because this puts a bit more focus on Weiss specifically. I mean, it makes sense because a lot of the advertising was Weiss in this kind of general outfit. So it's been this thing throughout the entirety leading up to it that Weiss is going to be the main focus of this little series that we're doing. So we'll have bits where... Oh, I figured it out. Some of the cuts felt stilted. That's what it was. Not a specific scene, but cuts. Because there was one bit, I don't even remember what the scene was prior, but it cuts to Jean and Pyrrha talking about his aura on the rooftop, and Weiss is watching this, and it felt awkward that we suddenly cut to this scene right here. And honestly, I think it's pretty funny that they make a lot of Weiss's motivations in the first 3 episodes like really shallow. Like, the entire reason for why she's doing what she's doing, like befriending RWBY, making up with Blake at the end of episode 3, the reason why she's doing all of that is just so they don't hate her, but also she wants to become the team leader. Unlike in RWBY Volume 1, where she decided, you know what, I'm just going to try to be the best teammate that I can be. I'll try to change my ways, kind of thing. Well, we'll get there. There are certain bits here where it seemed that Weiss was a bit more wanting to manipulate them into letting her get away with certain things, because Yang is calling her out. She's just like, you're being a bigot. And Weiss is just like, ah, how dare you call me a bigot? And it's like, yeah, you're being a bigot. Which I felt was probably my favorite scene from the entire thing, because Volume 1 didn't even acknowledge that Weiss was being ignorant of the Faunus, so it was kind of like... I'm glad they actually called it out, but at the same time, she still doesn't apologize. Maybe later she will apologize, but as of right now, she's not. It's still early. We still have 4 through 12. But I am interested to see on exactly where they end up going with this. Because we have this new character of Shion, who is a nightmare hunter. And a nightmare is a type of grim that is feeding off of somebody's aura by leeching into their nightmares. The ones that are more emotionally insecure or going through it, really, are more susceptible to being attacked by the nightmare grim. So we have Shion, who makes it their duty to go around and, I don't want to quite say exorcise victims of this grim, but it's kind of along those lines. So we have this one scene where I would imagine they probably would have put the entirety of the Jaundice arc to begin with, which, by the way, they did have Cardin in the show. He didn't talk, but he was there, and it's for the better that he didn't talk. But that's that. So they show us exactly how the Nightmare Grim works, and they decide, hey, we're going to go full Inception on you, and we're going to have, the only way for you to help is to have people close to you that can go inside and fight back against these nightmares so that you can be retrieved. It only works with close friends or family, because otherwise it'll just full on reject you and just, I think, get worse. So we had the scene where Jean was infected with one of these Nightmare Grim, and I'm not going to say it's a nasty effect, like what it looks like, because it's like thorns and vines growing up all around the body, and it's kind of leaning towards the grotesque, kind of body horror, but not quite. So it was very interesting to see this darker side of Grimm, and a new type of Grimm too. Like, we've gotten like the Ursa, the Nevermore, the Deathstalker from Volume 1, but for a while it's like we didn't really have anything. And in Volume, I think it was 4 first that introduced newer, no, it was 3. It was 3. 3 introduced newer ones. Which was nice, more grim, but none of them were quite as terrifying, in my opinion, as like the Apathy of Volume 6. But again, that's beside the point. So we have this Nightmare Grim that I feel is a new threat. It's not exactly something that can be easily beat, because you need somebody who has the know-how and abilities to get you inside somebody who is being afflicted by this Grim, and then you also have to be able to track them down inside their nightmares, find them, rescue them, and then allow Shion to be able to reclaim the Nightmare Grim, which ends up turning back into like a seed. I think personally it looks like a pea pod, which I thought was interesting. Like the fact that they're introducing this new type of Grim, and the fact that Grim can be pretty much anything in this world. So it's a ever looming threat that anything could potentially kill someone. So while I'm also talking about villains, Roman Torchwick's back. Always a fan to see him. We briefly saw Adam. I don't know if he's going to be a bigger appearance in this show or not. We also saw a brief glimpse of Cinder. They're like, "Ooh, let's keep her face a mystery. Ooh, you don't know who this is." And it's like, I'm pretty sure most people watching this have seen Volume 1. They know Volume 2 as well. Like, I'm pretty sure a majority of people that are watching this have already know who this is. I don't know why you're blocking her out so much. But yeah, this is very compact. It is about an hour and 6 minutes, front to back, of just Volume 1 and then some tacked on to the end. So we have a little bit here and there that are new. But for the most part, it is Volume 1 again. Maybe a little less cringy. No, a lot less cringy. There was one joke that I was kind of sad wasn't in there, um, because I just really like the delivery from Volume 1. That's very, uh, not something you hear very often about Volume 1, but I like the, really? No. Delivery of Volume 1. I thought that was funny, but that's not present here. This is a bit more serious. It's lacking a little in the humor department, but it's fine so far. Hopefully they're going to introduce more of that as we go along. But Volume 1 as a whole is about 5 minutes short of 2 hours, and this is half of that. So I'm not going to say it's a bit rushed, because I feel like it paces things well enough. There are certain pieces, as I said earlier, with the cut to Pyrrha and Jean, that was an interesting cut. There are certain bits that I felt like could have been edited a bit better, or maybe that was just how they ended up writing it because they were trying to fit in most of Volume 1 into this thing. I don't know. I'm not in the writer's room, so I'm not going to pretend like I know. I feel like something else that should be said is Weiss. I know I was talking about her earlier, but I want to talk about her a little more because they are really amping up Weiss's bad tendencies in this, and I feel like there's a strong purpose for that. Hopefully we'll get more into it later. But the entirety of them looking around for Blake, Weiss is maybe, I guess the word might be belligerent. She's not being the most helpful with looking for Blake, and there's even a scene where she starts crying, and Yang's just like, oh my god. So, I mean, as per how Volume 1 actually is, Yang doesn't really get a lot of character growth herself. I feel like she might get a little more in this than she would have in Volume 1. But aside from some early things with Tai telling Yang to maybe cool it a little bit with RWBY, she doesn't really have much to work with, which is fine because we're moving at breakneck speed. Like, we're going really fast in this. So that brings me to another thing, is that it's missing some of the more tender moments that I feel RWBY normally nails. I'm not going to say perfectly, but nails very well. And I feel like that's mostly in part to how the show ends up going with its development of Volume 1. Because we're amping up Weiss's bad tendencies, and we're also trying to showcase the new stuff, as well as, like, half of episode 1 is mostly just the white and black trailer. We don't see the yellow trailer. We don't see the red trailer. It's mostly just white and black. So I felt that was interesting. Oh, they had a new scene with Blake, where she had run away. They also added more to the black trailer between Blake and Adam. So it makes her decision to run away a bit more understood. Like, it reads a bit better in this than as it does in the actual black trailer. But granted, that was on a time scrunch and this wasn't. So we have Blake multiple times telling Adam just like, hey, maybe you're going a bit too much with this, buddy. And he's like, nah, I'm fine. She's like, decouples the cars and bye-bye. And I do like that there's a scene where the White Fang members catch up and they're just like, should we go after her? And he's like, no. But we know. Another thing I want to hit on, specifically because I've already talked in depth about Weiss, which, as I had mentioned, I feel like they amped up her, well, for lack of better No, coldness. I'll just say they amped up her coldness. She's a bit more unlikable in this as compared to the original, which I'm kind of surprised about, considering that in the original Volume 1, she was not the most likable person, but now in this one, she seems a bit more hostile, which is kind of shocking because it's like, do you want us to like her? Do um if this was my first exposure to RWBY, I probably would not like Weiss. Um oh, speaking speaking of Weiss, there's this one animated bit in the forest where Weiss is doing her attack and RWBY gets in the way, and like the camera and how Weiss kind of uh fishtails her head, and we get like that like fish eye lens on her. It looks really derpy and it's funny. Um, and there's another bit with Pierre, Jean, and Weiss earlier in that episode that I thought was funny. But like for the most part, as I said, like a lot of the jokes from Volume 1 were not present in this. So, and see, I had another thought. I do think that the first episode of this sets up a little bit more of later volumes a bit better because, like, granted, it has the pre-existing content that it can take that from and put it in here, as compared to the show as a whole as it is. But I don't know, maybe they should have had a bit of that stuff already put into the show when they were going to go ahead and start it. But I know that when they first made this show, it was made with like 10 people, 2 rubber bands, and a dream. But it's kind of hard to compare these two things, mostly because Volume 1 is such a small indie project, and this is big. Like, this is big scale. We finally got this full-on anime approach. So it's a bit different. I will say I feel like some of the charm of Volume 1 is not present here. If I were to be a bit more critical, I feel like some of the not kindness, that's not the right word, but I'll just go back with charm. I feel like some of the charm that was present of Volume 1, where, it felt like a shoestring budget, because, well, it was, but it still had that kind of fun vibe to it. It still had that kind of, oh, well, I know this is very low budget, and it knows it's very low budget, so we're going to have a good time with this. This is a bit more upscale on the budget. So it's a question of how do we make this feel similarly to that? And I think they're going to go more on the edge of we're not going to try to make that again, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with them doing their own approach. However, I do feel like some of what makes the early volumes of RWBY nostalgic for some people is going to be lost here because they're not going with that charm. That's my own personal thoughts on it. Lastly, I want to talk about the fights. They are gorgeous. If anything, those are the main takeaways. The animation, god tier. It's really good when we're getting through the fight scenes. I think my personal favorite is, well, I have two. I have two personal favorites because I really like the fight at From Dusk Till Dawn. I really like that fight between RWBY and the robbers. The way they had animated that, it looked really beautiful. All the shine from the weapons, the glimmers, the way they moved around, it looked really good. Another one that I liked was the fight against the Nevermore. I felt that the Deathstalker was a little underwhelming as compared to how it is in the show, but the Deathstalker was really well animated, and I strongly recommend at least watching that scene if you're going to watch any of this, it'd be that scene, how they handled it. It's not Monty, still, it's not Monty, but it's still really good. So, at the end of the day, I still enjoyed this. I'm still kind of missing the Jeff music done, but I do like the soundtrack that they put in for this anime. I also like the opening theme song, and I like the closing theme song. Those were both very gorgeous. I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing more, but I won't for a while. I don't think episode 4 is coming out until like, what, mid-July? I don't know, I'm gonna have to look at the schedule. That's something that I'm criticizing them for, is just they're not being the most transparent with this series, but at least we're getting it. Like, like it looks really good, and at least it's here, and I could watch like all 3 episodes all at once. That was nice. So I guess we're gonna have to wait a little bit, but yeah, those were my thoughts on RWBY Ice Queendom episodes 1 through 3. Maybe I'll just do like little groups of 3 episodes as the season progresses. Maybe I'll do them as they happen. I haven't decided yet. Depending on how this does, I will decide one way or the other. But yeah, this was a little bit of a spur-of-the-moment decision to sit down and actually do this video. It turned out to be a lot longer than I thought it would be, so extra long review for you guys. But yeah, as I said in my last video, I'm definitely planning on doing a review series for the Resident Evil franchise as well as the Twilight franchise. Both are garbage, but you know what? They're fun. Like, Twilight's bad in a, like, I can at least get drunk and laugh at it way. Resident Evil is bad in a, I have specific movies that I enjoyed in it that I would put on just because I'm bored kind of way. And then, of course, also have The Ring and Black Christmas to talk about as well. So that will be the end of this video. If you liked it, well, like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. And let me know what you thought. Did you watch Ice Queendom? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And make sure that you're cordial. I know how this fan base can be, and I know that some of the worst tendencies can be brought out in certain people. So I'm just going to say now, if I see any bad comments below at all, it's going in the trash. No one's going to see it. Don't even bother. So that's all I have to say on this. Hope you guys have a good night. I mean, it's nighttime for me, but I don't know about you when you're watching this, but even still, have a good night.